This it's one of the interesting things about this case because we can see this person, and everyone around Liz has been so thoroughly looked into. And even though not everything checks all the boxes perfectly and fits nicely as clearing everybody, it just feels like there's something about the person in that video that's odd.
Hi, everybody, and welcome back to True Crime Unsolved. This is the place where we tackle the stories that the TV networks won't touch. All right, guys, today we are getting into another comment reaction video. We've had such a huge response to our last couple of videos that we've put up, especially the interview with Michael Ritchie. So we really want to get some feedback going with you guys, give you the answers on the stuff that we can. So we're going to do that. Before we do, Sean, is there any sort of channel business that we want to clear up?
I think the biggest thing I'd like to say is that we are really happy to see how Michael Ritchie was received by all of you guys. That got a lot of views. There's a lot of comments, a lot of passion for Liz's case, but also for him as an investigator and as a person. There's just a lot of support. And it's great to see because this is such a frustrating case for everybody where we all feel like the answer is just out of grasp. And so you could see a world where people are taking it out on the guy who's trying to solve it because it hasn't been solved. But that's not what happened. Everyone was really supportive. And it's great. It's like we're all on the same team, and it just gave us a good feeling to read those comments. So thank you, everybody, for chiming in with your positivity on an otherwise really not positive story, right? So that's pretty much what I wanted to say. Obviously, Miles and I are working on bringing you guys more cases, more interviews, more comment. There's so much coming this year. We have like, I don't even want to tell you, but if you looked at like our calendars and all our pile of like things coming out, it's overwhelming, but in a good way. There's a lot coming down the pipe. I won't bore you with it now, but stay tuned. I think that's pretty much the housekeeping, right? Miles, you want to add anything to that?
Well, I will say we didn't say anything about this in our last reaction video, but we have been accepted to the YouTube partnership program, and that happened very quickly. And that is thanks to you guys and really the retention that we're getting on these videos, the interest that everyone's showing and watching, such large chunks of what we're putting up and the interaction that we're getting, the comments, the conversations that we're having, the community that we're building. It's really happening very fast. And obviously, Sean and I are putting a lot of work into this channel, and we really love doing it, and we want to keep doing it. So we're excited about the possibilities of what the future is going to bring, and the fact that like now we can actually monetize, and we're going to see what we can do with that, and see if we can bring some money into the channel so we can do even more. So keep an eye out because we're probably going to start doing some lives where we can chat with you guys in real time, take questions, sort of what we're doing with these comment videos, but actually do them live. We'll probably start doing that maybe once a week. And if you guys have any ideas of what other stuff that you'd like to see us doing, like I always say, like please feel free to share it, because we're this is still a relatively new platform for us, so we're open to suggestions, not just about like stories to cover, but also like maybe there's other things that you want to see us talk about. So yeah, feel free. Let's keep an open dialogue. I think that's the most important thing here.
Absolutely. And, I don't want to be the tacky guy who's like, at work, we're all a family here. But, like, this YouTube channel is something where I do feel like it's a community and we're building it. And, like, everyone here is an early comer. We've only been out like a month and a half. So everyone is an early arriver. But seeing some of you guys return week after week with new thoughts and questions and comments and interest, it's like, it's just beyond cool for Miles and I because we care about these cases. We care about these stories, and having you guys react and care just as much, what an awesome thing. And there's no other word for that but a community. So yeah, we're excited to keep it growing, keep coming back, like, subscribe. And with that said, let's hear what you guys had to say this week. Oh, one more thing, Miles. What do you got?
One more thing, I just going off of what you just said, we have actually gotten direct messages on our social media and also like through our email address that's obviously on the contact on the YouTube channel from some of you guys letting us in on information that we weren't aware of as far as like people to look out for and situations that have existed before we were really involved in YouTube. And I really appreciate that. And you guys are helping us protect the integrity of the brand and what we're building here. And I just wanted to say thank you for that because there have been conflicting sort of messages about certain personalities out there and like, hey, you guys should talk to this person. Hey, you guys should talk to this person. Then we'll get like multiple messages like hipping us to the history here and like what's actually happened. And that's invaluable information that Sean and I wouldn't necessarily be able to get any other way except directly from you guys. So thank you for looking out for us. Thank you for caring and helping us protect what we're building here. And we appreciate it.
I think that's it, right? I'm glad you brought it up.
Let's see what you guys had to say. Okay, so first comment. This is a long one.
All
I
right.
don't know if I'll read every word, but
You guys want to go make a cup of coffee? Go do it now and settle in. Here
right.
we go.
Maria Block 3094. Thanks for the comment. And I believe you subscribed. Thank you for that. Hi, Sean and Miles. I've been following this case since it happened because I live about 30 minutes away in Spring. My suspicion of Sergio being involved grows more and more. The more things that come to light, the more what Sergio did in his said interviews are odd. His story has changed too. My theory is he hired a hit on Liz just because he did not want to be married to her anymore. They did not have a fairy tale marriage. No one does. So that's a big lie right there. I also think that the life insurance was a motive and the fact that it doubled if she was murdered. Now, the day of the garage sale, Liz's father was going to help her that morning. What if Liz's father would have been there? Was the perp going to kill them both? The fact that the plans changed for Liz to be alone for a short window of time, only the perp and the person who arranged this hit would know this, and that is plain and simple. Only one, and that's Sergio. I really don't care that he's been checked out and so say passed a lie detector test. I feel because Sergio has a degree in criminal justice, he would know exactly what would take place in the investigation and the evidence.
I'll make mine quick, Miles, because I know you've been talking for a while. Let me give you a break. After reading that. So yeah, look, this we say it every time Sergio comes up, which is every week as we're covering the Liz story so heavily right now. We're getting a lot of talk about Sergio. If you've seen our other comment reaction videos, you'll know how much time we've spent on comments kind of like this, like the things that don't add up in his story, the behavior that he's exhibited that's weird, and people are like, why would you do that unless you were the person responsible? So I'll say kind of what we always say. Yeah, we see it too. Yeah, we know. We agree. In those interviews with Detective Ritchie, one of which you probably have seen the second one since this is coming out Monday and it will have just aired Friday. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. But we talked a lot about Sergio with Detective Ritchie in that second interview and really tried to ask some of these questions that you guys had. I don't think we addressed every single issue in this comment, but some of them we did. And for us, it's about platforming where the detective is right now. And we were not trying to insert our theories or our thoughts, but we did ask, right? And so I would say if you really want a longer form response to that, go watch that video. It's really interesting to hear it from Sergeant Ritchie, and the reasoning and everything that's gone into like why things are the way they are right now. Yeah, that's the best I can say for it. I mean, Miles, do you want to take any of it in more detail, or what do you think?
This idea of Sergio having a degree in criminal justice and that playing some role in his ability to play the law enforcement and play the system a bit. It's interesting. It keeps coming up. Palacio, Texas Beauty has brought that up several times over the last couple of weeks. She obviously, has the same feelings about Sergio being at fault. Uh, I don't know. I know a lot of people with degrees and things that don't really know anything about those things, and they just kind of like got the degree. I have to say that. And Sergio was working for his dad's flooring company, so I don't know that he was some mastermind or is some mastermind of criminal justice, or else, why didn't he put that degree to work and get a job that may have been more lucrative than working for his dad's flooring company? I don't know. Question I would ask him, if he would talk to us. But it is interesting. I know a lot of you guys are keep bringing that up. So I'm sure when you get a criminal justice degree, you do learn what your individual rights are when speaking to the police. You do learn, how far they can go
Yeah,
before you get a lawyer, stuff like that. And, look, at being on a crime scene, knowing that you're a suspect, that kind of knowledge may be very helpful.
I
Um,
agree. I think that would be what makes the most sense out of that angle.
yeah. Now, our next series of comments, I don't know that a criminal justice degree would help you with this because this is again about Liz's murder, and again about the possibility that uh, her husband at the time, Sergio, is the culprit. Palacio, Texas Beauty, thank you for your support, and thanks for always tuning in and commenting. I mean, come on, the tiny circle of people who knew about the garage sale. Perfect timing. The perp's truck is on the move at the same time Sergio backs up out of the driveway. Only the killer and the person who planned it out strategically knew. Lindy C 7847 replies, and likely arranged with burner phones, not their main phone. And then Palacio Texas Beauty says, that's my thoughts, a burner phone. Also, the alarm to the house that he told Liz to make sure she set. This was to ensure she would remain outside at least for a while. It also was a way to know where Liz was, because if she were to go into the house, she would need to disarm the alarm, which in turn sends out a notification.
Well, it would answer a lot of questions, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it definitely like Palacio Texas Beauty here, which yeah, thank you for commenting. We always look forward to it. Is laying out some really solid information. I mean, obviously this was planned. We know that, where we can make a very safe assumption. It looks like this was a planned hit, right? So who planned it and how? Yeah, burner phones make the most sense. Even if it wasn't Sergio, I would imagine it'd be smart for the people involved to be using a burner phone rather than a real one, because they're just so hard to track down and figure out who had what phone and what the information is. Like, that's why those phones exist, is to be a little bit more anonymous. So the house alarm thing is interesting. Yeah,
I have to
again,
be honest, I never thought about that before.
yeah, me
And
neither. It's a good point.
it is a really interesting point of not only getting someone to be outside, but also if they went back inside, you're hooked up. We all have everyone who's connected to the alarm system has the app on their phone. They get an alert that it's been turned off. Oh, she's gone back inside.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. The whole thing is interesting. We did ask Sergeant Ritchie about burner phones in that interview, the part two with him.
Hmm.
And I think if I recall correctly, he agreed that that was a possibility, but he was never able to find any evidence that had been a burner phone. But it's like, again, if someone paid for those two phones with cash, and maybe it wasn't even Sergio, but the other person involved paid for those phones in cash, gave one to Sergio, and then they were both thrown away or destroyed afterwards, how would you ever find that evidence? I mean, if he didn't buy it on a credit card, and he still doesn't have it, and there's no like surveillance photo from an intersection of him driving with a phone that's not his normal phone, then how would you ever prove it? So it's a good point.
Which is why they were, right?
Right. And that's why this theory you can't brush aside. It's not for sure what happened, but it could be. I mean, it's a very like plausible thing. If indeed it was him that was behind it, which we don't know and we haven't proven and he hasn't been charged, but the people like this commenter who really believe that that's the answer to this whole mystery have put together a pretty, airtight theory of how it could have happened, right? I got to give it to you, Palacio, Texas Beauty. I mean, if it was, if that's where the answers lie, that could very well be how the whole thing worked.
Right. How the mechanics of it were actually pulled off. It's a really good breakdown. Lindy C 7847. Great interview, guys. I think the same. It was a higher hit for reasons we don't yet know. And the Nissan could easily have driven into a garage somewhere near the crime scene straight afterwards and shut the garage door for chop shop treatment. And phones being handed in for thorough investigation would not cover any plans made on second burner phones. Absolutely. I mean, that's what we were just talking about with the possibility of burner phones. Um, as Sean said, the cops did look into it as much as they could, but if things were purchased in cash, if someone else bought them, there's no way to trace those, right? So I mean, that's the whole point. So if you do it right and you're smart and you plan this out for a long time, it could be untraceable.
I'll say on the chop shop element, it's definitely intriguing, right? Because I think all of us, we're frustrated that we can see that truck, and yet we don't know, like in real life, where's that truck and who owns it. Could it have been chopped up? Yeah. I'm a little disinclined to think that that happened, because I think that that now grows the conspiracy to more people, right? What are the odds that whoever did this is also a mechanic who knows how to take apart a car and dispose of all the parts? It feels like you'd have to get another couple people involved who do chop shop stuff for a living, or at least work on cars to the point where they can fully disassemble and disappear a truck, right? Not a golf cart, a big old truck. So Could that have happened? Yeah. I mean, if the people involved in this conspiracy felt enough confidence to bring in other people with that skill set, or if by some strange reason they themselves had the skill set and the place and the tools and the know-how to chop up a truck, it's conceivable. But I do think it becomes a little less likely just because all these other elements now enter the conspiracy that seem like it might be easier to just drive to another state and sell the truck or go across the border to Mexico and get rid of it for cash to somebody. Like I can think of a couple ways to get rid of that truck that might have happened that are just easier than this. But it's a good theory. And I'm not saying you're wrong. We don't know. You could be totally right. And I think that you're on the right track trying to find ways of finding out what happened to that truck that are not just, oh, it's still driving around town. We just haven't pulled the guy over yet. I think the truck went somewhere. Seems like these people who did this were smart enough to plan out a lot. And that would be a big piece of evidence that you'd want to get rid of. So yeah.
One thing, just adding to what you said, it's not just additional elements, it's additional people.
Mhm.
And as we all know, the more people involved in something, the harder it is to keep something secret, right? So, especially the fact that there was no payout, if it was on Sergio's side and there were all these people involved and everyone was going along for it because they were going to receive some sort of payment based on the idea that this, life insurance policy was going to get paid out. If that life insurance policy hasn't been paid out, then the money's not there. How is everybody being kept quiet? That's why I think that this is probably personal. And I tend to think that it's not about the money, and that there was something really strange going on here that we're not fully aware of yet. Because I don't know how you would keep that many people involved quiet when they hadn't been paid off. And if they are of a criminal element and these were professionals who were brought in to help with something, somebody's gotten arrested for something else over these years, you know?
All right, let's read this next comment. This is from Estrusherd or Estrusherd or Estrusherd. I don't want to butcher your name, whoever you are, but it could be pronounced a couple different ways, and I've been in trouble for this kind of thing before on the channel. Um, they're saying, I have been thinking about it, and this may be the best interview I have seen on any subject ever. Wow, thank you. That's huge.
Thanks.
I have to imagine there's got to be some better ones out there, but we'll take the compliment. Detective Ritchie was refreshingly candid. The one new piece of information was that the vehicle did not pass the Barraza home at 2 a.m., so there was no way for the killer to know what vehicle Sergio was driving on that particular day. And therefore, there was no way for them to spot him leaving for work. That leaves only two possibilities to explain the timing. One is that Sergio contacted them, which seems vanishingly unlikely. The other is that D.S. Ritchie's 10th man idea is correct. The Nissan Frontier was cruising the neighborhood looking for a likely victim, spotted a lone woman prepping a garage sale in the pre-dawn darkness, and committed a crime of opportunity.
Personally, having like looked at this footage so many times, I don't think that's true just because this person is obviously wearing some sort of like special outfit, call it a disguise, call it a costume, whatever you want to say. It doesn't seem like some random thug type person that's out there just looking for someone to kill. It just doesn't come off that way to me. The way they walk up, the little interaction that happens. I at first, diving into this case, I yeah, obviously I thought that was a possibility, but I tend to not believe that. I still do think that whoever did this had some connection to Liz. What that connection is, I don't know. And if how well Liz knew them, or if Liz even knew that this person felt connected to them, I think is the question that
Mhm.
that we should be looking into. Like, and I think there's a comment coming up that kind of speaks to that.
Let's look at the next one here. Let's see. What is this person's name? Knight Rider 380.
Right, right.
Love it. Knight Rider. They say, what I think this comes down to is who all knew that she was outside at that time. You can't obtain that from reading a flyer or someone telling you the date.
If I'm reading between the lines on your comment, that because of how early it was, and because it was like pre-dawn, when she was out there. So it's it's really good luck, or it's having some knowledge that she was going to be there.
I can only compare it to the neighborhoods I've lived in my life. And anytime I've had to be out in the front yard at that time, like going to work or doing something, I'm the only one there. Like it's not a very active time on the street. Sure, every neighborhood's different. Maybe that's a neighborhood full of real early birds and people are out there every morning, but I just get the feeling that this was someone new, that it's not a normal time you'd expect to find someone standing around their yard.
Karen Lester, 3066. This case reminds me of Missy Beavers, also in Texas, who was ambushed when she showed up to teach her exercise class at a church. Police have that crime on film too, yet no one has been charged. Totally. And also very early in the morning, if I remember right. She was there at a very early hour to teach that class. Just so happens that we are working on a series of videos about the Missy Beavers case. We are interviewing some folks who are very closely involved and have sort of been keeping the fire alive on that. We're working on a collaboration with them. So hopefully we'll have that done for you guys in the near future. And yeah, it'll be interesting to sort of compare and contrast that to Liz, because a lot of people have made that comparison.
Let's look at this next one. Rachel Garcia, 4790. Who said Sergio is from Mexico or even his family? Not every Hispanic person is from across the border. Yeah, no, that's a good point. I don't think we did say that. I think a commenter had left a comment that we were reacting to, wondering if that was possible. I mean, Sergio is Hispanic. Yeah, we don't know his family tree. We don't know where his family hails from. I think Sergio himself was born in America. If you hear him talk, he sounds like an American guy. But I think the question the person was raising is it possible that the truck went to Mexico? Maybe because maybe Sergio's background is there, or maybe also just because the proximity of Texas and Mexico and all the things that go back and forth between those borders. So that's where Miles and I kind of steered that conversation is more about like, yes, it's geologically conceivable that somebody could have gotten rid of the truck that way or been contracted out of Mexico to come commit a murder here and then go back. For us, it doesn't really matter where Sergio's family is from or where if his parents are Americans were born in another country. Who cares, right? I think the more important thing is the proximity and the possibility because there's such a relationship between these two places.
Shireen A. Schiffelbein, 2178. Based on the days and hours and weeks and overall time I've delved into this case, I commend this PI. This is about the Chance Engelbert disappearance, and she's talking about Ryan Couch. He has gone above and beyond. Honestly, the best I've ever seen that was also willing to interview, and the best channel I found at covering these cases. Thank you.
Wow,
I'm
thanks.
not sure how the warrant will be able to be served because law enforcement is evading and covering the guilty parties as well. But by all accounts and beliefs of those that are trying to cover this up, Chance was hidden, buried, concealed on someone's private property close to the river that I cannot state the name of. It's in the middle of the alphabet.
I love that they left a clue. That's great.
But I do know that the NBI has the ability to overtake the PD, and the FBI has even higher power than the NBI. The footage should be enough evidence to serve the search warrant, and Chance can finally go home to his loving family like he deserves since that very first day. I believe this can finally be closed within the next few months. Great job, Ryan. The footage, I believe, Shireen is talking about the footage of Chance walking on his journey that he went that night, which some of it we've shown in our videos. I maybe it's the footage from the truck stop that nobody's been able to get.
Hmm.
Perhaps that's what you're referring to, because obviously Ryan's intimated that if we did see the footage of Chance at that truck stop, that a lot of things would be cleared up, and perhaps that would help solve the case. Um, as far as you're saying that it sounds like you know something as far as like the name that's in the middle of the alphabet. So if you want to drop us a DM, at our True Crime Unsolved Instagram, or send us a message at the email address in our contact, we'd be happy to connect you with Ryan if you do have any info that you want to pass on to him.
Joda 7221. This is about Jennifer Kessie's case. I've followed Jennifer's case since it was announced on the news, born and raised in Florida. A lot of theories, any of which could be true. What saddened me with this interview was the DNA they found in the car not matching anyone in CODIS, which is the like national DNA database. I mean, what else is there? Is the fact that her body has never been found mean that she was taken to another country, or is she in the bottom of a lake? Jennifer's car was found at HOTG, a mile from where she lived. Why would the possible perp return her car so close to where she lived, risking being seen in the daytime? Per the video time date stamp, upper left, this is probably about the surveillance video of the suspect. It was returned the day she went missing, around 12 to 1 in the afternoon. It wasn't found until 2 days later. Seems like a big unnecessary risk. Why not drop it off on the other side of town, further away from the crime scene? Have never been able to reason this away. Okay, real quick, and then I'll toss it to Miles. Some people have suspected it's because they worked or lived at the condo where Jennifer did, and they wanted to return there on foot. So, rather than park it 10 miles away, they parked at one because they figured they could make that walk. I don't know if that's true or not. There could be another reason for this, but that is something people have raised. It may be that the person actually just didn't want to be driving somebody's car for that long in case they got pulled over, right? Because then they would figure out it wasn't their car and it would be they would get caught basically. So the idea that they wanted to get rid of it but not spend a lot of time in it could be it. They wanted to just get rid of it somewhere close and maybe they had parked their car somewhere nearby, right? Planned it out ahead of time. Um, so I don't know. It is one of the most intriguing things, though. And a lot of people have also asked if Jennifer was abducted by a group of people, right, or more than one person. Is this just the guy that we see on camera? Is just this the one of the many people who was tasked with just parking the car and getting out of there? And meanwhile,
Right.
Jennifer was somewhere else with other people, and there was like more coordinated thing going on.
Ask Alice 1999 says, I know most people believe it was a higher hit, but the shooter being dressed in costume makes me think it wasn't. Here's what I would say about that. If it was a professional who was hired by someone who knew Liz really well, then they would have gotten as much information about their target as possible. Them putting on an outfit that's going to confuse things even more would be a smart thing to do, honestly. Like, as opposed to like walking up dressed like, Billy Zane from Hitman in a like a slim black suit, and then everyone's like, oh, it's the Hitman. You know what I mean? So like obviously this outfit has confused things even more, has created more theories, has pointed towards perhaps the 501st because some people speculate that it is a kind of like Princess Leia looking kind of outfit. And a lot of people have talked about that. I'm not coming up with this out of nowhere. I mean, so I don't know. I don't know. And maybe it was, if I was going to hire someone to do a hit, which I would never do, I would hire someone really smart who thought of every angle. So it could be part of it. It's interesting that Alex, you call it a costume and not a disguise, and a lot of people do. A lot of people look at that outfit in the frames that we have and they say that's a costume, which, obviously Liz and Sergio were in this group where people wore costumes, and I think that's created a lot of questions around that group, and probably as you'll see when we publish the interview that we did with Liz's friends Marcy and Josh, it's created a lot of issues within that group too. Which I'm eager for you guys to see that interview and to see how Liz's death has affected those friends and that social group and the cosplay group and all the people around it.
Yeah, no, it's a really interesting point to drill in on the word costume because you're right. We're talking about a woman who was very involved in a group full of people who made and dressed in costumes as a big part of their lives. Then she's murdered by somebody in a costume.
Yeah.
It's hard to ignore. Is that really necessarily the answer? Yeah, who knows? We don't know. We hope we find out, but it's hard to ignore that.
I mean, it's a bit semantical, right? Like costume versus disguise, but it does feel like a costume. That there's something about it that feels costumey.
Well, it seems like a disguise, right? Now we're playing like word games, guys. So I
Yeah.
hope you're enjoying this, but it feels like a disguise is more something that hides your face, where a costume is this full body thing that this person has on that may be trying to confuse people about even the sex of the person underneath it. Is that a guy? Is it a woman? We don't know. So yeah, it is kind of costume-esque that works as a disguise. Anyway, the Jasper 1970, who is a subscriber, thank you so much. This is about Liz Barraz as well. I had wondered if this crime was committed by someone who had secretly become infatuated with Liz or her husband. Maybe not someone well known to either Liz or her husband, but a more distant figure or acquaintance.
It could be. something really odd like that, that someone nobody knew was even there in the periphery. It's kind of like that idea that like, you know, the road rage thing, and like, maybe Liz had like done something without knowing that it pissed off the wrong person who was, psychotic, and they decided to make her a target. And these things do happen. It's really rare, as we all know. That's why Sergio is in everyone's sights, because the statistically the people closest to us are usually the ones who are guilty of killing us. But it is quite possible. And for things to have gone on this long, and for such a strong investigation to have been conducted into Sergio and his dad and everything else. And as you've seen, hopefully you guys have watched the second part of the Michael Ritchie video interview. He really did his work there. Maybe it was some random person, and maybe there was either A, I think, an infatuation, as Jasper's saying, or B, an anger for some reason, a jealousy, something like that, which I know I've hit on multiple times about this case. And I've always pointed towards that, sort of cosplay world, and like maybe there was someone who didn't like the way Liz moved, because she was such an upbeat, happy person who seemed so positive and radiated light wherever she went. And, sometimes there's people that resent us, right?
This it's one of the interesting things about this case, Miles. It's like because we can see this person and everyone around Liz has been so thoroughly looked into, and even though not everything checks all the boxes perfectly and fits nicely as clearing everybody, it just feels like there's something about the person in that video that's odd. It's the disguise, it's the way they move, it's the way they come up and say a little something. It's the fact that we've never found the truck and that we can't find anybody with the truck. It's just something strange. So it does sort of invite this like more out there speculation. You talk about this case long enough, you're going to get there.
Yeah, but that's the way I lean away from the random killing thing,
I do
because of
too.
all those
Yeah.
odd elements to it. But I do think what Jasper's saying is quite possible.
hmm Yeah. Like you pointed out, I've brought that up before. I'm not saying that's my leading theory necessarily, but I brought it up as like, yeah, maybe it's possible. You want to take this last one?
Sure. I love this screen name. KG Penguin. Sergio couldn't have done it himself, obviously, but could he have hired someone? Perhaps. I just don't see a motive. I'm more suspicious of Sergio's dad, who had a sort of falling out with Liz. He knew when Sergio would be leaving for work, and he had a motive. The police went through all of Sergio and Liz's financial things too. They never found anything. From what they say publicly, Sergio's dad could have hired someone to do it. I'm sure you've watched part two of the Michael Ritchie interview. Obviously, there was stuff there with Sergio's dad. Liz had apparently discovered that he was having an affair. There was financial stuff going on where, Sergio's dad was his employer also. He was having financial problems. He had asked Sergio multiple times to kind of cover payroll and stuff like that. There was a lot of stuff. Did Sergio's dad know about the life insurance policy, and was we've talked about this before. Was he sure that like if he pulled this whole thing off, that Sergio was going to cut him in for a piece of his deceased wife's life insurance payout? I don't know. That seems to me, if that's the case, then it was they were together on it, because they would have had to have an agreement of how this was all going to work out, especially if you're involving other people and you need money for it and you're deferring payment on some of this stuff. So I don't know. It becomes a very big conspiracy with a lot of people involved to me, and I feel like that would be really hard to keep quiet all this time. Um, it doesn't, just from his behavior and what he was up to. I don't feel like Sergio's dad necessarily was the most up and up moral guy, not to make a judgment, but just based on how he was moving through life. I'm not saying that he was capable of doing something like this, but I also don't know that he would have necessarily been together enough to pull off such a grand conspiracy and to keep it quiet for so long when he couldn't even make payroll on his company. But again, it's all speculation, right?
I think that's our comments for this week, and I know that we're going to be taking the Michael Ritchie part two comments next week, and I'm sure we're going to be going over a lot of the stuff that comes up in that interview. We're really looking forward to hearing what you guys think about it. And yeah, with that being said, I mean, anything else you want to say in closing? I always just want to say thank you for the comments. We love reading them. These are fun videos for us to make. This is obviously grim subject matter, and we're dealing with real people involved in it, and those interviews are always pretty heavy, or at least detail heavy, and this is our opportunity to like take a little breath, read what you guys are thinking, and talk it through a little bit more openly than we do when we're just trying to listen, right?
If you guys like what we're doing, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, you know, drop a like here and there. And if you really like what we're doing, share it with your friends. Let's keep this thing going.